Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. It has become a nationalistic fashion to say that people, especially the minorities, should not mix religion with politics. But these naive ones forget that the foundation of this nation was unbuilt and broken into several fragments on the basis of religion. And they also forget that religions are born out of socio-political responses by the protagonists who are then revered as Messiah, Pagambar, or Guru. What exactly are these reservations in the country that are being provided to people, nay, masses, who have been religiously discriminated against by adherents of particular religious philosophies, advantage given to those who aren't yet able to measure up to the parameters set for a particular job or study, not only directly affects the organization, administration, and governance of the nation, but also the performance of the country as a whole. How can the state be held responsible and made to pay for atrocities, torture, and discrimination done to people since thousands of years bygone upon the basis of a religious belief and deprived of human rights, dignity, education, well-being, and right to comfortable living? If it were a religion or religions that perpetrated these crimes against humanity, they should be held accountable and made to pay for it, but certainly not the state, which itself claims to be secular. On the other hand, if atrocities committed over thousands of years are being paid for by the state, a state which did not even exist then, it is more than fair for the Gursikhs in particular and of all Punjabi citizens in general to ask the state for crimes it committed, for due payments and with appropriate interest, for all unkept promises, treacheries planned and so inhumanly perpetrated, for all lost opportunities and lost generations, to ask for dignity of all those who lived for the nation and served, and those who dreamt for this nation and died for it with dignity when the time came. Please know that the parties and politicians who play the politics of the Dalits, Balmiks, Ravidasyas, and other SC, ST, BC, and OBC and underserved people are the ones actually mixing politics and religion. As that is now demonstrated as correct, then what is wrong in asking for redressal of all issues that remain pending with matters all Gursikh? For they are not just the majority holders, over 52% approximately within the bounds of the present-day Punjab, but also of their political accumulations that include most of Pakistan, Jammu and Kashmir, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, parts of present-day Rajasthan, Uttaranchal, and Uttar Pradesh. The political accumulations attained in kingdoms established by the Gursikh Panth and the Guru Khalsa at extraordinary costs, starting with the martyrdom of the fifth Gursikh Guru, Guru Arjan Dev, in 6th month of June 1606 AD, and appointing rulers from time to time were totally different than the kingdoms that existed, for all Sikh kingdoms and domains were the hard-fought, protracted battles for freeing the land from alien oppressors. These were kingdoms and rule of the sovereign which were by the people of the land, and for all people who lived in their respective domain and without prejudice, without malice for any religion, color, caste, or creed. For the Gursikh community to join in the Indian Union with all their assets, including military and natural resources, was perhaps an easy decision for those who made it, albeit without much thought or ado. But being ripped off of all uniqueness, dignity, stature, identity, and effectiveness in nation building was not part of any deal. The Indian Union was not at all meant to be some sort of a cremation ground for this Gursikh Panth and its historic achievements. The Gursikh world did not need protection. It was actually the Indian Union which wanted to ensure its internal and external security, that it was desperate for the Gursikhs to not announce their own independence or to accept Muhammad Ali Jinnah's invitation to be part of secular Pakistan. Obviously, the massacres that scarred the country then would have been averted. The Hindu, quote-unquote, majority community was a feeble organ of the nation when the Gursikh community saved it from near extinction. But joining the Indian Union will not mean that the same majority community, now emboldened due to deeds and achievements that weren't of their soul making, will be desirous of devouring all matters and assets Gursikh. This is what the country needs to learn and learn well. Indeed, the mutiny of 1857 AD was against the British presence, but arguably not with any pan-Indian perspective. It was by a few kingdoms and for the benefit of their kings and queens, and rightfully so. Questions that perhaps neither get asked nor answered is what errors and lapses led the East India Company to be in such a advantageous position in India in the first place. Ghadar instead was arguably the first freedom movement of India, and the reason why I want to honor it, evoke its founders, its martyrs, and most importantly, its soul. The founders of the Ghadar offered their selves, foregoing all comforts for the good of the pan-Indian nation. I hope you will join me as I offer myself to the vision and the initiative of the founders of the Ghadar, for I believe there is still hope for the nation to redeem itself from all the evils, social, religious, and political. For as I wrote a few days ago, quote, most people in the country are sending as if their emissaries to negotiate with corruption, to reach some sort of a compromise. But friends, the wise do not negotiate or compromise with the corrupt, and certainly not with the curse of corruption. Know, people, that the wise and true patriots of the land deal with corruption and sort the corrupt out of the nation's scheme of things, there and then, as and when required. We now need a revolution, not a conversation anymore in the country to weed out corruption. To speak of Swaraj, Inqilab, and or Azadi is merely crying for fruit. Ghadar is the wisdom, vision, hard work, perseverance, resilience, and sacrifices all combined and requisite to realize such fruits, to reap such harvests. Punjabis gained their sovereignty despite the might of the Mughal Empire and retained it defiantly even during the height of British tyranny. Does it have to be that the Gursikhs are to lose out on their historic achievements and so many firsts? That grant of sovereignty endowed upon them by the Gurus, the Bhagats, and the Sufi Peers? The Ghadar says not. Murdering one's savior is the worst sin that anyone can ever do. Ghadar won't allow the country to be such a sinner. Mantav, Vatan di Sukham, Abodh, te sthul punji, Samet pu, Jal, Vayu, Agn, Akas, Khaniyan, ਬਾਣੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰਨਾ, ਸੁਵਰਤੋਂ ਕਰਨਾ। ਦੂਜਾ, ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸਨੇ ਵੇਖਿਆ? ਵਿਰਲਿਆਂ ਹੀ ਸੁਣੀਦਾ, ਪਰ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਜਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਤੀ ਸਭ ਕੋਈ ਜਾਣਦਾ ਹੈ, ਤੇ ਇਸੇ ਦੇ ਸਬਕ ਨਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਏ ਕਰ ਰਹਿਣਾ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਜਲ, ਵਾਯੂ, ਅਗਨ, ਧਰਤੀ, ਸੂਰਜ, ਚੰਨ, ਪਾਰਸ ਤੇ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਬਿੱਖ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਿਤਕਰਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੇ ਕਰਦੇ, ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਿਰਪੱਖ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਤੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਸਬਕ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਕਰਨਾ। ਤੀਜਾ, राज करना ही काफी ना है, राज कराने का भी चज होता है जी। स्व अखर स्वार्थ, स्वहितैषी, स्वयं भाव अपने आपे या अपने आके फायदे वास्ते करे अखरां से भी बन जाए है, पर स्वच्छ और सर्वत्र हिती जो स्वराज होवैगो, ओ है असल, ओ है भला। ते चौथा, हर संभव उपराले करना कि लोकाई और जमहूरियत की मानसिक, शरीरक और मायक सेहत ਵੱਧ ਦੋ ਜਾਵਸੈ, ਘੱਟ ਸੇ ਨਾ। ਦਿਹਾਤੀ ਵਿਦਿਅਕ ਅਦਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੇ ਸੰਥਿਆ ਪ੍ਰਣਾਲੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਭਾਲ, ਸੰਭਾਲ, ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰ, ਪਸਾਰ, ਵਰਤਮਾਨ ਤੇ ਨਵਯੁਗੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਪ੍ਰਣਾਲੀਆਂ ਸੰਗ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਖੜਾ ਕੇ ਨਿਵੇਕਲਾ ਵਿਦਿਆਤਮਕ ਭਵਿੱਖ ਸਿਰਜਣਾ। ਵਿਧਾਇਕੀ, ਪੁਲਿਸ, ਜੁਡੀਸ਼ਲ, ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ, ਪੱਤਰਕਾਰੀ ਆਦਿਕ ਯੰਤਰ ਤਾਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਹਨਗੇ, ਪਰ ਇਹ ਲੋਕਾਈ ਨਿਮਿਤ ਔਰ ਲੋਕ ਭਲਾਈ ਹਿਤ ਹੋਵਣਗੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਯੰਤਰਾਂ ਕਾ ਲੋਕਾਈ पर धर्मों, गैर धर्मी, सियासी या पूंजीपतियों का राज नहीं होने देना, ना ही लोगों को वश करने के लिए दुरुपयोग होने देना, और इन्हां सबना की लोकाई अधीन रखा करना। इन्हां सबना पर समय समय लोक चिंतन करके लोड़ पवे तां फिर रिफॉर्म या पुनर्स्वरूपन करना। रिश्वतखोरी, गुरबत, ऊंच नीच, जाति पाति भेदभाव आदि ਵੱਖਵਾਦੀ, ਪੱਖਵਾਦੀ, ਲੋਕਾਦਿਕ ਜਮਹੂਰੀ ਵਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਦਾ ਖਾਤਮਾ ਕਰਨਾ। ਦੀਨਨ ਕੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰਨਾ, ਉਪਰਾਲੇ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਿ ਆਕੀ ਬਾਕੀ ਨਾਏ ਰਹਿ, ਕਿ ਕੌਮ ਵਤਨ ਦੀ सदा हर मैदान फतेह होवे, हर वक्त उपराले नशी रहना बहना कहना। जेकर भविख मैं लोड़ पवेगी तां फिर तद के विद्वान पुरख परमेश्वर रल मिल सभा बिठाए के सर्वसम्मति प्राप्त करके इन्हां प्रशासकी मनसूबी कंगणावां में जिव जिव हुक्म ते वै तिवकार के वादा कर सकें, इस दी इजाजत भी नथी कीती जांदी है। गदर क्यों? गदर मचाउणे दी लोड़ पैंदी है जद गद्दारां दी मंडली जम जांदी, गद्दारां दा जम घट लग जांदा। गद्दारी कीती हिंदुस्तान दी जमहूरीयत नाल, फरेब होया है इस वतन नाल। इस्लाम, हिंदू, ईसाई आदि मतां नाल गद्दारी, दलितां रवरन पिछड़ियां जातां पातां नाल गद्दारी, गुरसिक्खी नाल भी होई मुसलसल गद्दारी। देश दी आजादी वास्ते निष्काम लड़े भिड़े संग्रामियां नाल तां होया धोखा ही, पर वतन दे सूरबीर योद्धियां नाल भी गद्दारी ते उत्ते एहसान फरामोशी। वतन दे खजानियां दी लुट कसुट, नौजवानी नाल भी गद्दारी। समां तां आउणा ही बनिया गदर दा। गदर सानू वफा सिखावदी है, बेवफाई तो मोड़दी है, वर्जदी है। गदर जिंदगी प्रस्ती दा सबक दिलावदी है। गदर इस धरती नू ते वसेंदी दुनिया नू ही सुर्ग कर जाणदी है। गदरी बाबे ते बीबियां सरबत दे भले वास्ते ही अडिग सूरमा उतरे हो जीव दे हनगे, ते जे लोड़ पवे ता वतन लई तन मन धन अर्पणे के लिए ही और मरने नू बेझिझक सत्यार बर तैयार हनगे। गदर वचनबद्धता दा भी नाम है। भाखा धर्म ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਬਹਾਨੇ ਵੰਡੀਆਂ ਪਾਉਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਸਲੇ ਹੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਰਦੇ। ਕਿਉਂ? ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੱਕ ਵੱਡੇ ਜਾਂ ਛੋਟੇ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ, ਉਹ ਕਿਤੇ ਵੀ ਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਬਦਲਵੇਂ ਹਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੈਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ। ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਵੰਡੀਆਂ ਪਾਉਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਟੁੱਟੀਆਂ ਗੰਢਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਲ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤੀ ਹਨਗੇ। ਇਸੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਵੈ ਹਿਤੈਸ਼ੀ ਤਾਬੀਅਤ ਹੀ ਕਲੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਜੜ ਹੋਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਉਦਾਰਤਾ ਜਾਂ ਫਰਾਖ ਦਿਲੀ ਕਲੇਸ਼ ਮਿਟਾਉਣੇ ਦੀ ਅਵਖਦੀ। The name of the party shall be the Hindustan Ghadar Party, herein referred to as the Ghadar. Allegiance to the Constitution of India, the Ghadar formed to help usher in and sustain the political, economic, social and intellectual independence and prosperity, bears true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India, its amendments past, present and future, as by law established, and to the principles of socialism, secularism and democracy. The Ghadar would uphold the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. मैं हुण आर्टिकल सांझे कर रहा with a particular focus on present day Punjab. May the proposed articles be read as follows. In the year 1913, Ghadar was a party formed in the land of the free to bring about a complete change in the political and economic system of India. When the land wasn't free, for the world had only a people of one color that lived and had rights, all privileges, even when their womankind had none of it. Ghadar is also a party that is reformed in the land of the free to protect and consolidate India's political, economic, social and intellectual independence and prosperity. When the land isn't at all free, helplessly bound in its humankind's vices, whims and fancies, and wherein a people of a certain faith and socio-religious affiliation have all the privilege merely because of their sheer number and not substance, and others not, where womankind are not yet equal. Ghadar is a party reformed to liberate India from all and any forms of corruption, greed, rampant looting of nations' wealth, supremacist tendencies and attitudes on the basis of religion, race, caste, gender, sexual preferences, and to ensure India remains independent with equal rights for all. The founders of the Ghadar resolved in the first meeting in the year 1913 that, and I quote, no discussion or debate was to take place on religion within the organization, for religion is considered a personal matter and that it had no place in the organization, end quote. But it is one thing not to discuss religion, it is another to protect all tangible and intangible assets of the nation. If religion are intangible assets, their respective followers are their tangible wealth. That is, all religions that are practiced in India and beyond its political and constitutional bounds do have rights, as do the people who follow them. The Ghadar resolves to protect these rights and ensures that it will do all it can and all that it must, so that all peoples may have the freedom unfettered to choose and practice their own faiths. Ghadar is a party reformed for the protection of the people of the country from all or any forms of subjugation, manipulation, and humiliation at the hands of the state, rulers or ruling classes, corporate, religion or religious leaders, and or any or all other force or factor. Ghadar is revived so that our people's world without internation and the world within intranation may for always remain ornate with and may never ever forget freedom of thought and expression, the ability to reason, the voice of concern, the art of defiance, of resilience, and of courage to constantly undergo self-scrutiny, maintain constant vigil, and nurturing unwavering will to eradicate vices and all forms of discrimination there and then, as and when found. For these virtues are the ornaments of a living society, of a dynamic civilization. Ghadar is to perfect, practice, and propagate the art of solving conflicts. It is about crisis management. Ghadar is the name of that resistance which is directly aimed against conflict creation, especially conflicts that are simulated, theaters curated to harvest a nation and or alliance specific benefits. Ghadar is the ability to build bridges between people. Ghadar is the name of that romance which can heal shattered hearts and duly restore dignities of the ones so inhumanly humiliated. Ghadar is that vital key that instills love and compassion in the heart, mind, and soul of the ones so brutal, ever so greedy, and those humiliating the humble and the meek. The Ghadar is the antidote to the politics of privileges that exists for the rich and high classes of sorts, and also against the politics of convenience that is only made available for the underprivileged and underserved. Ghadar will know the state and its government, all elected and or appointed and or nominated representatives, and all of its employees as subjects of the people of India respectively, the country's people no longer known as subjects, as equal stakeholders whose will shall be the true master and guide of the nation. The well-being of the peoples, the very purpose of existence of governments and of all of its public servants. Ghadar is to persevere for the benefit and overall good of all of the nation's stakeholders, that is, the citizens of the country without prejudice and with no malice, and for the benefit of the overall health of the mother planet Earth. Ghadar recognizes all natural resources as a wealth of humankind, but that it must continue to share it with other life forms that constitute nature's wealth. Ghadar defines the fight to save all life forms from extinction. Ghadar recognizes the right of state and corporate combined to find intelligent ways to benefit from the natural resources, albeit for collective good, as enshrined in this clause and other relevant clauses, without infringing the rights of indigenous people and wildlife. Ghadar recognizes exploitation of natural resources only to benefit a state and or a corporate as a crime against nature and nature kind. Ghadar pledges to continue the battle waged by Guru Tegh Bahadur, who sacrificed his life in the 17th century to protect the rights of people to practice their own chosen faith. Ghadar recognizes all religions and non-religious paths as equal without exception. Therefore, Ghadar de-recognizes all missionary acts aimed at religious conversions of underserved people by means overt and covert. Ghadar recognizes and stands by the right of people to choose their own religious faith or a non-religious path. Ghadar allows for people to engage in a peaceful, even passionate debate on merits and shortcomings in and about any religious or non-religious path. Ghadar will know such debates is crucial to keep alive people-to-people dynamics of the constructive inter- and intra-faith dialogue and protect spaces for newer ideas and revelations yet to come. For Ghadar knows the realized and written as a finite, and the unwritten as an embodiment of an infinitude of ideas and realizations. Ghadar is that ability to prison break out of dogmas and blind faith that constantly plagues us as a people. Ghadar is a right of a person safeguarded, that which gives him or her the freedom to venture into and out of a word, a concept, to relish and celebrate it, and then to move to another and onwards or back. Ghadar recognizes the 24th day of the 6th month of June 1606 AD, when Guru Hargobind swore two swords, one that protects the spiritual, the other the temporal, and the Vaisakhi day of the year 1699 AD as the moment when Guru Gobind Singh empowered the people of the world with a sovereign right to self-govern both the state and religion. Ghadar resolves to constantly empower people with knowledge and insight so they remain enlightened and make informed choices for themselves, both politico-temporal and spiritual, and for their generations to come. Ghadar reposes its faith in the numeric Ik, prefixed to Omkar by Guru Baba Nanak, and knows it as the one doer of all creation. Ghadar will not recognize any faith or a way of life as special. Ghadar also gladly inherits all languages and dialects and strives to honor them as gifts to humankind, as heritage of human expression. Ghadar's use of a particular language for state matters is not a testimony of its preference but of general administrative convenience. For example, in the historical and geographical bounds of Punjab, Ghadar will know any or all of Arabic, Persian, Punjabi and Sanskrit as its state languages, with the native script of the land, generally called Gurmukhi, revived by Guru Angad Dev and as used in the year 1604 AD by Guru Arjan Dev to successfully pen down Gurbani containing nearly 120 languages and dialects, proving that the creator is not a monolingual entity as the first state script. Ghadar is inspired by the way Gurbani, authored by the 36 Grand Elders of South Asia, hailing from different socio-religious, privileged and especially underserved backgrounds, has been collated as Guru Granth Sahib. It is ironic that we often hear these contemporary politicians advise keeping politics and religion separate, especially when our grand country was so mercilessly split on the basis of religion and with millions of its innocent citizens butchered because of their religion and sentiments. We need to understand once and for all that religion and politics just cannot be separated, and that socialism and secularism cannot be construed as death of religion nor its burial ground. In fact, politics needs pious people in its rank and file and leadership, not ignorant fanatics. Ghadar does not recognize or advocate any partitions done merely in the name of ideologies, religion and or languages. Such acts of linguistic or religion-based partitions have proved disastrous time and over again. Ghadar therefore de-recognizes the partition of Hindustan done in the year 1947 and subsequent partitions of Punjab and other regions of Hindustan on aforementioned basis. The Gursikh Gurus endowed titles, privileges and kingships irrespective of class, caste or any other materialistic or worldly standing. Thereafter, the Guru Khalsa, which carries the seal of the Gursikh Gurus, endowed privileges and kingships. These are beyond the purview of any state or federal government. When Mahatma Gandhi says the following, he spoke of the Sikh domains in the north of India and never imagined that the Sikh kingdoms will be dissolved without having the jurisdiction to do so. Quote, I venture to suggest that the non-violence creed of the Congress is the surest guarantee of its good faith, and our Sikh friends have no reason to fear betrayal at its hands. For the moment it did so, the Congress would not only seal its own doom, but that of the country too. Moreover, the Sikhs are a brave people. They will know how to safeguard their right by the exercise of arms if it shall ever come to that. End quote. He further continued, and I quote, why can you have no faith? If Congress shall play false afterwards, you can well settle surely with it, for you have the sword. I ask you to accept my word. Let God be witness of the bond that binds me in the Congress with you. End quote. Not even the Sikh kings had any right to sign anything off to the central government, for the seal of the Gursikh Panth was the deciding factor. Gursikh Panth includes all the followers and following spread across South Asia and the world over of all the authors of Gurbani recorded in the Guru Granth Sahib. Gursikh Panth is bigger than Punjab, is bigger than the nation. Ghadar repudiates the revocation of titles and dissolution of royal courts of South Asia affiliated to the Gursikh Panth. Nanak Panthic associates in joining the Republic of India never meant to forfeit the Gursikh sovereignty, including religious, social, political, military, diplomatic, financial, and natural resources. In any case, the new democratic system adopted was not tried nor tested. Moreover, if the purpose of dissolution of the monarchies was to prevent dynastic rules, then that purpose hasn't ever been solved. One form of dynastic rule has been replaced by a far more impoverished version of corrupt rulers who have been witnessed over the decades as being busier playing the game of political chairs than serving the people of this country. Look at the family clans such as Gandhi, Badal, Caron, to name a few, and there are cultish amassments, build-ups, wherein only the closest aides of larger-than-life phenomenons take over as if it were their ordained right. In all of these situations, it is a mockery of the idea called democracy. It may perhaps be painful a note, but our country never really made the transition from being ruled to ruling itself. The idea called by the people has proven to be a mere farce. Ghadar recognizes that the idea of instability at the top end of hierarchy has not proven to be beneficial to our respective societies in particular and our nation as a whole. Democracy is for all people and cannot mean eternal ordainment of a people holding a deceptive majority to rule over everyone else. Ghadar would like to recognize that the politics of equality, wherein all religion are deemed as equal and no profiling is done, in their name, the politics of unequals, numbers. That is, Ghadar recognizes that international tourism is an important source of revenue and that reinstatement of the myriad royal courts of India by giving them ceremonial roles within their respective erstwhile kingdoms and or estates would not only honor and recognize by ceremonial functions their time-tested models of governance, but also attract people during ceremonies and other religious occasions. Ghadar understands that some form of meritocracy needs to be honored in matters of state governance. Why must it only prevail in the corporate sector, which does not apply the current democratic model upon itself? Ghadar suspects that the model of the East India Company, an armed corporate, covertly controlled by an imperial power, ruling over several but not all of royal estates of Hindustan, is somehow in vogue. Corporates in the modern context are not patriotic entities, for their pledges towards existence, sustenance, and surreal growth, albeit of their own selves, but at any cost. Corporate families are now outlasting the political leaders and thus hold key. Ghadar, therefore, is desirous of finding a better, ever-evolving solution for self-governance that will ensure the dignity and aspiration of our nation are never ever compromised. Ghadar recognizes that the Hindustani Hind or Indian India, for which the founders of Hindustan Ghadar Party founded the party to articulate their idea of struggle, fought to realize their vision of Hind, and even made supreme sacrifices, was very different from the India we live in today and its fragments spread across South Asia, as they, despite belonging to different regions, kingdoms, estates, paths, saw the common enemy and joined hands to make it a joint struggle. It is time as revivalists of India's Ghadar movement to identify our common adversary today. Not the tyrants and oppressors without, but the tyrant, the manipulator within. Arbitrary deviation from the rule of law, communalism, poverty, corruption, failure to maximize our absolute potential as a society, a nation, unemployment, poor infrastructure, and lack of anticipatory planning, inability to inspire and guide the youth to celebrate life in full and enjoy success, underachievement are amongst our common enemies. It is time, therefore, to rise in Ghadar. We, the people of the world, have evolved a near perfected perfection being supposed to be the arbitrate of an idea called Paramatma, a society wherein opportunities to serve are granted by meritocrats on the basis of meritocracy. There is commonly understood knowledge, even logic. But then there is exclusive knowledge and specialized understanding about particular subjects. Ideas such as that of minority and majority were new to our world. Being in majority isn't being the master of exclusivity of knowledge, agility, and ability. Therefore, being beholden solely to some kind of a numeric majority does not translate into better governance or deliverance by the state or a statesperson. Not every citizen is a jeweler capable of assessing the Kohinoor's value. Choosing the guru or a peer wasn't a decision of the majority of the people. It was of an absolute minority. In fact, only Guru Nanak could have chosen Pai Lehna as Guru Angad over his own very capable two sons, Baba Sri Chand and Baba Lacchmi Chand. So much so that mere capability and ability isn't enough, for they are just mechanics. Instead, it is the ability to discern, to be able to sift the chaff out, yes, but then to choose that one that is unique, that is paramount, that edge. It is valuing that space where a surprise too could exist if it chose to reveal itself. Squabbling about who will gain a minority was always a destructive part of our society. Meritocracy was the constructive part, the creative framework within which innovation, revelations, and realizations naturally occurred. Ghadar rejects sheer battling and groping in the dark as a mean to govern the state. Ghadar identifies itself with the humility requisite to seek out responsible members of the society capable of providing solutions and leadership regardless of their race, caste, creed, socio-religious and political affiliations, sex and sexual preferences, etc. To give, grant and provide for selflessly is statecraft. To grab and to greed is not. Ghadar believes that our nation, for it is a unique home to almost all the major religions of the world, must have a council of religions above the lower house, Lok Sabha, and the upper house, Rajya Sabha, including representatives of non-religious affiliations, wherein each religion and non-religious affiliation is represented by one member. All members are to have the power of veto, so that no decision or manipulation in the name of religions is successfully or unsuccessfully attempted by the politicians, affiliates, organizations, and individuals as witnessed in the past. The veto will ensure no place of religious and non-religious significance or an individual is threatened, even if any one particular religion may have an absolute majority to influence the four pillars upon which the nation stands, namely the political, judicial, executive, and journalistic. The council may have non-voting, non-veto powered ex officio members from one each of the following: judiciary, a retired chief justice or a Supreme Court judge; diplomat, ambassador or above ranked; military, a retired armed forces chief; bureaucracy, cabinet secretary or above ranked. Ghadar therefore resolves to have a council of religions of its own. For the story of Bhagat Kabir would be so incomplete without Bibi Loi, for the discerning Bebe Nanki who identified the Guru in the young Nanak, for Guru Nanak's reprimand made in the 15th century and sung each day ever since, questioning why women are being considered as filthy and lesser than human. Ghadar resolves to hold 50% equal participation in all of its endeavors in conjunction with Article 24, be it all of its party spheres, state administration and government for women. For Guru Baba Nanak included the works of Bhagats and Sufi masters such as Bhagat Kabir, a weaver, Bhagat Namdev, a washerman, Bhagat Ravidas, a cobbler, Bhagat Dhanna, a farmer, and others irrespective of the classes and caste they hail from, and for he identified himself with the lowliest of the low, for the Ghadari Brahm Vichar of Guru Baba Nanak would be half without the Rababi strings of Bhai Mardana, a low caste Mirasi. Ghadar resolves to include 50% participation of the Dalits and other fellow citizens hailing from the underserved, underprivileged, and backward classes and castes in conjunction with Article 24. Ghadar is that place of convergence where elders who have had a few eventful decades engage in a constructive discourse, a dialogue, sharing their respective harvests with the youth that is bound to have a few eventful decades of their own. Ghadar invites at least 30% participation of the youth aged between 18 and 45 years in all of its endeavors. The 50% participation, as aforementioned in Articles 27 and 28 and in Article 29, are to be calculated together in conjunction with Article 24, that is, the partnership as required in Articles 27 and 29, will be divided between the general category and of the citizens hailing from communities mentioned in Article 28, being a Dalit, a Jat, a Lohar, a woman, or a Brahmin, or a person hailing from any category, general or otherwise, will not be enough. Instead, a party leader or any or all of office bearers must be deemed as worthy by the Ghadar Personal Appointee Committee, or GPAC, that he, she, or other is a solution-bearing, selfless contributor citizen of the country. Ghadar's response to Mughal British eras and will to address problems in the post-colonial era. Ghadarites represent the struggle of the native Indian populace against unfreedom, injustice, extortion, and repression by various tyrants over the past several centuries. Ghadar has fought for the rights of the indigenous people over themselves and their natural resources and reserves. Ghadar recognizes that several repressive laws were enacted by the British colonialists to control or rule over the people of South Asia, which were mindlessly carried forward by the new Indian rulers of India. This is highlighted by the manner in which the freedom fighters of the Indian National Army were dealt with immediately after the partition by the Indian state. Even the status of martyrs such as Bhagat Singh and others who came before him and after are still technically recorded as terrorists. Ghadar resolves to dismantle all systems of controlling people and their aspirations set in place by the British colonialists, all of which were just mindlessly continued by the leadership that inherited the reins of the executive in the year 1947. Ghadar will take these acts one by one, starting with the following. With regards to the Sikh Acts enshrined in the Constitution of India, one wonders what remedies have the traditional parties such as Akali Dal and Indian National Congress taken ever since the day the Constitution was adopted. Despite assurances by the likes of Mahatma Gandhi and others, the Congress betrayed the Sikhs, yes. But how have the Akali Dal leaders not betrayed the Sikhs? Given the precious time and extraordinary opportunities that have gone by, it will only be fair to state that they, the Akali Dal leaders, that is, did not have the intellectual and tactical wherewithal or understanding of Guru Sikh histories to represent the Sikhs in particular, nor Punjabis in general. For throughout history, Sikhs, who were born out of Hindu-Muslim populace, ensured the safety of the local peoples and their vernacular languages. Where was their so-called intelligentsia with its defiance and resilience? Where were the protests of non-cooperation and peaceful non-violent protests to win back their due dignity and socio-political rights? Akali Dal leadership over the decades has only ensured that Punjabis in general and Sikhs in particular have been toyed with and deprived of all military, financial and political power. No parallel regulations were prepared and enacted by the Punjab State Assembly. Their foolishness is so rampant and visible that on one hand, they claim they have not signed the Constitution of India, and on the other, they have continued to follow its diktat or acts verbatim. Can the Akali Dal explain how come they follow the Indian Constitution diktat or acts to even conduct elections? What has the Act of 1925 got to do with the Constitution? Actually, and what have the Sikhs got to do with what's written in it when they aren't even signatories? As part of this, Ghadar resolves to free the Sikh Gurdwaras from this illegal and unethical state control, as well as the Sri Akal Takht, whose management was clandestinely wrested out of Sikh control by the British colonizers. The idea of elections is as far-fetched and ridiculous as it can be from the models of self-governance endowed upon the Sikhs by the Gurus. Ghadar, therefore, will initiate and inspire the second Sikh Gurdwara reform movement to free all Sikh affairs and assets from all or any state control. Ghadar, therefore, resolves to protect all religions and places of learning from attempts by the state to control them overtly and or covertly. As part of restoration of Sri Akal Takht to its original glory as endowed by Guru Hargobind, the sixth Gursikh Guru, Ghadar resolves to invite the participation of Nihang Dals so that the same number of cavalry as adorned by the sixth Gursikh Guru, that is, all of 700 horses, 57 cavaliers, 60 gunmen, and 500 infantrymen are all attached to the office of Jathedar Sri Singh Sahib. The 500 infantrymen may be drawn in consultation with the Ministry of Defence from the Sikh regiments, who will come for a set transfer whereby they could also benefit learning languages, music, scriptures, martial arts, etc. It is only expected that the soldiers may take back a greater heart and more intense a passion to serve the Panth and the nation it protects back to the units where they are drawn from. Ghadar remembers that the Akal Takht was higher than the Mughal Takht in its principles, deeds and conduct. So Ghadar resolves to restore its uniqueness, not just as a seat of service that ensures for your temporal and spiritual sovereignty, but also acts as a source of light and of hope for the whole of the world. Dilli Takht is no different, for it is the Talda Sach, ever-changing or escapable truth, while the Akal Takht is the Atalda Sach, unfazed or inescapable truth. Ghadar resolves to have Akal Takht revive its courtly proceedings by appointing a bench of retired Supreme Court judges from India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Tibet, so that people from the whole of South Asia, wherein and beyond Guru Baba Nanak travelled and taught, may approach and benefit by resolving their issues, their disputes. The court, called Kachahri Sri Akal Takht Sahib of Jathedar Sri Singh Sahib, will receive petitions for any review or grant of pardon. Laws on the basis of Gurmat are to be drafted and subsequently administered, even Sharia-based, but with a caveat that no torture, physical abuse, or capital punishment will be granted. Ghadar, by way of working to restore the Darbar Sahib and its territory as one of the finest abodes of learning, languages, music, Shastra Vidya, that is from literature to martial arts, will honor this institution of Guru Nanak that single-handedly helped the nation preserve its diverse nature. For it was the only place where all religions could converge under one roof and sing songs of revelation of one creator, one creation, celebrate the gift of life, love and compassion, and congregate to pray for peace and harmony in the world. The Nihang Dals will be allowed spaces around the Darbar Sahib Prakarma so that the vernacular Gursikh lifestyle is able to thrive and age-old traditions which help the nation retain its eclectic uniqueness are not only duly honored but also conserved. The Udasi, Nirbala and other Sadhu Sampradas associated with the Gursikh world and history will also be allowed spaces around the Darbar Sahib. The institution of Langar will also be revived so that all Gurdwaras in the country and beyond remain dedicated to unconditionally serving healthy food to the people, especially the needy and humbled, day and night without exception or selection. Dear electors, I have taken particular care not to engage in any form of conversation with anyone who is in any way related or affiliated to a political party, except for a few scholars, thinkers, and responsible scribes who understand the pillars our nation is founded upon, and also of their rampant abuse and recent histories. I did not want to engage with friends who would simply compliment this proposal of mine with a shava, vai shava, or wawa, literally bravo, but with those whom I have known and witnessed over a period of time as having an objective voice and who have shown extraordinary courage to say the truth. These are among those people who are gifted with the ability of sifting the real from the spurious. I am grateful to every single one of them for their patience, for my musings were without doubt very lengthy. This is a proposal. Know this, that either it will prove to be my parting note or a starting point. Nothing short of addressing the core issues I have pointed out will bring lasting peace to South Asia. If we can remove distrust, confrontational attitudes, and greed, then I can guarantee there will be more prosperity and happiness than we can ever imagine. To my fellow Punjabis, all admirers and beneficiaries of the vision and sacrifices of the founders of the Ghadar across the nation and beyond its bounds, I will be glad to meet up at the end of the first week of August 2016. And if the proposal is acceptable, I propose we shall relaunch the party on the night of the 14th day of the 8th month of the year 2016, when it is no longer the day when Pakistan was torn apart, and not yet the 15th day of the 8th month of the year 2016, when India wasn't yet left abandoned to its pitiable state. Let it be known that the revived and revitalized Ghadar remains resilient, emboldened and resolute, still a dreamer, and wanting to persevere for the people of the nation and making our country a responsible contributor to the community of nations. Let the Ghadar recommence. Let the Ghadar begin. Jai Hind, Sat Kartar.